The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of fried food and exhaust fumes. A stark contrast to the crisp ocean breeze I'd grown used to. Colors exploded everywhere. Murals on crumbling walls, laundry strung between buildings like vibrant flags, the relentless blue of the sky above. Music pulsed from unseen speakers. A rhythm that was both intoxicating and disorienting. I felt my skin prickle, not just from the humidity, but from an almost electric current of anticipation and a deep, unfamiliar unease. My bag felt ridiculously heavy on my shoulder, a physical anchor to a world that suddenly seemed impossibly far away. This wasn't the Rio I'd seen in postcards. This was something raw, something alive, something that promised to strip away everything I thought I knew. I remember stepping off the bus, the exhaust fumes hitting me first, then the sheer volume of it all. A cacophony of voices, honking horns, and the insistent beat of funk. The sun, a brutal eye in the sky, beat down on my head, making the pavement shimmer. I pulled my sunglasses low, trying to hide the wide-eyed wonder and the creeping apprehension that must have been written all over my face. My breath caught in my throat as I looked up the winding, impossibly steep paths. They were less roads, more veins, branching off into a maze of brick and corrugated iron, disappearing into the hillside. I knew I wasn't just visiting a new place. I was stepping into a completely different reality, one I was wholly unprepared for, and one that would soon demand everything of me. My plan had been simple. Experience real Brazil, beyond the tourist traps. I'd researched, or so I thought, finding a small hostel tucked into the lower reaches of a favela, promising an authentic cultural immersion. The irony of that phrase would hit me much later. The moment I started the climb, the noise intensified, the smells became sharper. Children darted between motorcycles, their laughter echoing off the close-set buildings. I saw men, eyes shaded by caps, watching, always watching. It wasn't menacing, not exactly, but it was a presence, an awareness that I was an outsider, a ghost in their vibrant machine. My steps felt clumsy, loud, a constant announcement of my foreignness. I found the hostel, a small, brightly painted building that seemed to sag slightly under the weight of its own charm. Inside, it was a calm oasis, but the world outside pressed in, a constant hum. I spent my first few days exploring cautiously, guided by other travelers, sticking to the main thoroughfares. I tried to blend, to observe, to soak it all in. I ate street food, learned a few Portuguese phrases, and felt a cautious optimism bloom. Then I met Tiago. It happened in a small bar, a tiny place with plastic chairs spilling onto the narrow alley. He was leaning against the counter, laughing with the owner. He had a smile that just reached you. It wasn't flashy, but it was warm, genuine. His eyes, dark and sharp, seemed to hold a flicker of something ancient, something that had seen a lot. He started talking to me in broken English, asking about Australia, about why I was there. His confidence was easy, not arrogant, and I found myself disarmed, laughing more than I expected. He offered to show me some of the real spots, the ones tourists never saw. My gut gave a little twist, a mixture of excitement and a tiny warning bell. I ignored the bell. We walked for hours that first day, deeper into the favela than I'd ever ventured. He moved with an effortless grace, navigating the steep, uneven steps, a natural part of the landscape. He pointed out the best views, the hidden waterfalls, the vibrant street art. He talked about his life, his family, the challenges of growing up there, but always with a fierce pride for his community. There was an intensity about him, a quiet power that drew me in. I felt a connection forming, a pull I hadn't anticipated. His hand brushed mine once, accidentally, and a jolt went through me. I knew, even then, this was more than just a friendly tour. A few days later, I was with Tiago again, watching the sunset paint the sky in fiery oranges and purples from a vantage point high above the city. The air was cooler up there, carrying the distant sounds of samba. He turned to me, his face softened by the twilight, and kissed me. It was gentle at first, then deepened, and for a moment, the entire chaotic world of Rio faded away. I felt completely present, completely alive, wrapped in an embrace that felt both thrilling and undeniably dangerous. It was later that night, back at the bar, when I saw him with another man. This man was taller, broader, with a more imposing presence. He had a serious, almost stern face, But when he looked at Tiago, his expression softened subtly. Tiago introduced him as Marco, a friend. Marco's eyes met mine, a quick, assessing glance that seemed to see right through me. He didn't smile, not really, but there was a flicker of something, maybe curiosity, maybe something else I couldn't tell. Marco started showing up more often. Sometimes he'd join Tiago and me, his silence often more commanding than any words. He'd observe, occasionally interjecting with a dry comment that would make Tiago laugh. I found myself drawn to his quiet strength, his intensity. He was the antithesis of Tiago's easy charm, a brooding presence that nonetheless held a powerful allure. I started to notice things. The way people subtly changed their demeanor when Marco was around, the deference in their eyes. The way he carried himself, a coiled energy always present. One evening, Tiago had to leave suddenly, called away by family business. Marco stayed behind with me. We talked, or rather I talked, and he listened, occasionally asking a question that cut right to the core. He had a way of looking at me that made me feel entirely seen, understood. The air crackled between us, a different kind of intensity than with Tiago. This was raw, untamed. He reached across the table, his large hand covering mine. My breath hitched. He didn't say anything, just squeezed my hand gently, his thumb tracing patterns on my skin. I felt a surge of panic, a thrilling, terrifying panic. This was getting complicated fast. I was falling into something I didn't understand, something way out of my depth. I knew, without anyone telling me, that both Tiago and Marco were involved in the movement. The way the favela ran itself, the power structure, their quiet authority, the respect they commanded, the subtle nods from other men. It all painted a clear picture. They were the guys. And I, the naive Australian girl, was now caught in their orbit. The climax arrived quietly, insidiously. I was at Marco's small, sparse apartment, high up on the hill. It was late, the city lights twinkling below like a scattered galaxy. We had been talking for hours, sharing intimate details, a bond deepening between us that felt both fragile and unbreakable. He told me about his past, about the weight of his responsibilities. His voice was low, gravelly, and it resonated deep inside me. He reached for me then, pulling me close. His kiss was fierce, demanding, completely different from Tiago's. It was a kiss that promised danger, a kiss that felt like stepping off a cliff. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the night. I felt my entire being surrender to the moment, to him, to the forbidden thrill of it all. The door creaked open. Tiago stood there, silhouetted against the dim light from the hallway. His eyes, usually so warm, were cold, hard, like polished stones. His mouth was a tight, grim line. He didn't say a word. Marco immediately released me, standing up slowly, his body tensing, a predatory readiness in his posture. The air became thick, heavy, suffocating. I felt a dizzying wave of nausea wash over me. My blood ran cold, then hot, a burning flush of shame and terror. The secrecy, the thrill, the undeniable pull to both of them. It had all collided in this one shattering moment. The danger I'd felt lurking beneath the surface now manifested, real and terrifying. I was trapped, frozen, my mind screaming. My body felt like it was shutting down, every nerve screaming for an escape. This was it. This was the point of no return. Tiago slowly stepped into the room, his gaze fixed on Marco, not me. It was a silent, intense standoff. The tension was so thick I could almost taste it. My throat felt like sandpaper. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I felt my stomach clench, a cold knot of dread spreading through my entire body. I had no idea what was going to happen, but I knew, with absolute certainty, that it wouldn't be good. My mind raced, flashing through every moment, every stolen glance, every shared laugh. I had been so utterly foolish, so blindly drawn into a world I didn't understand. Marco finally broke the silence, his voice a low rumble. Tiago. It wasn't an explanation, just a recognition. Tiago just stared, his eyes burning with an unreadable emotion. I felt utterly exposed, utterly vulnerable. This wasn't about me, not really. It was about them, their unspoken rules, their world, and I was just an accidental casualty caught in the crossfire. The silence stretched, an unbearable weight pressing down on me. I wanted to disappear, to vanish into the thin air, to rewind time. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. The fear was a cold, sharp blade, twisting in my gut. I stood there, a witness to a moment that felt like an eternity. The air was charged with unspoken threats, with a history I could only guess at. I felt an intense wave of self-loathing wash over me, a bitter taste in my mouth. What had I done? My adventure, my quest for authenticity, had led me to this precipice. I suddenly saw the immense gulf between my world and theirs, a chasm I had foolishly tried to bridge. My entire body trembled, an involuntary shiver that ran from my scalp to my toes. I felt a desperate, primal need to escape, to run, to erase the last few weeks entirely. The silence broke, not with an explosion, but with a quiet, almost imperceptible shift. Tiago finally turned his eyes to me, a flicker of something like disappointment, or perhaps just resignation, in their depths. He said nothing, just turned and walked out, the soft click of the door echoing like a gunshot in the sudden stillness. Marco watched him go, then turned to me. His face was unreadable, but his eyes held a profound sadness, a weight that seemed to crush him. He didn't touch me. He didn't say a word. He just nodded, a slow, decisive nod, and I understood. The unspoken command was clear: leave. I packed my bag in a blur, my hands shaking so badly I could barely zip the compartments. The vibrant favela outside my hostel window now felt menacing, claustrophobic. Every sound seemed amplified, every shadow elongated. I felt a desperate urgency, an overwhelming need to put as much distance between myself and that apartment, those two men, and that entire hidden world as possible. My heart ached with a complex mix of regret, fear, and a strange, lingering sense of loss. I didn't want to think about what had just happened, about the implications, about the mess I had created. I just needed to go. The journey out felt endless. Every turn of the alley, every face I passed, seemed to scrutinize me, to know my secret. The weight on my shoulders was no longer just my backpack. It was the unspoken burden of my recklessness. I didn't look back. I bought a bus ticket to the next town, then another, putting distance between me and the favela, between me and the two men who had so completely captivated and terrified me. The romance, if that's what I could even call it, was over, extinguished by the harsh reality of their world. I had sought an authentic experience, and I had found it, in a way that scarred me, but also irrevocably changed me. I learned that some lines should never be crossed, and some secrets are too dangerous to hold.